Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning into a special edition of Steel City Sports World. I'm your host, Luther Dupree, Mike Migliore, Claudio, and of course we got Smoking Jim back in the house. Good to see you back, Smoking Jim. How you been, man? Good. All right. Still struggling with my voice, but we're going to make it do what it do. Mike, what do you have on your mind today?
Well, I'm going to give you a chance to get the kids out of the room because I'm going to say a dirty word in Pittsburgh. NBA. Right now, the NBA is in their free agency. There's three teams that have done a little bit, or actually a lot, I guess, to help themselves. The Celtics, the Thunder, and the Rockets. But the team that everybody has to catch is the Golden State Warriors. They've made like no moves. They're standing pat, and they're going to win another championship next year. Nobody's going to catch them, not with these moves that they're making, not with the money that they're spending.
Okay. All right. Short and sweet. All right. I thought we was going to get the Mike, get the kids, the women and kids out of the room, Mike. All right. Cool. Claudia, what do you have?
Well, first of all, it's good to have everybody back for the first time
finally.
in a long time. Mike, good to see you. Jim, glad to have you back, brother. Major League Baseball, MLB, stands for Major League Baseball, but it shouldn't stand for Major League Baseball. Mediocre League Baseball. You look at everybody's record, everybody's barely over 500. There might be a team like the Dodgers, Arizona's doing pretty good, but the play is mediocre, the coaching is mediocre, the fans, everything is mediocre in the game of Major League Baseball. I did a camp a few days ago, 125 players, mediocre. The game is nowhere near what it was. I was lucky to grow up in the 70s and 80s. I don't see the passion. I don't see the skill level. They say, the players are bigger and stronger. They look bigger and stronger. Yeah, but that doesn't translate to the skill on the field. The arms aren't there. The speed isn't there. The hitting technique is brutal. But they're giving the pitchers credit for the hitters not doing so well when it's really the hitters just aren't being taught well. And as I said, the game is just mediocre. Look at the records of every major league team the past 10 wins or 10 games. Everybody's 4-6, 3-7. There might be one team 7-3. There's no parity is one thing, mediocre is another. So it should be called Mediocre League Baseball, not Major League Baseball.
Okay. Smoking Jim, should we put the disclaimer back or what? Hey, the words you're about to hear, Smoking Jim, they don't reflect my thinking or anybody else on the panel or any of our guests. Smoking Jim stands alone. That being said, Smoking Jim, it's all yours, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Luther. I'm sorry I was late. I was trying to get Artie Burns an Uber. Listen, it's because if you're black, you can't get a cab after midnight unless you're Dorian Dickerson, who talks white, sounds white, and acts white. Speaking of white, look for next month to Conor McGregor to knock out Money Mayweather.
Oh,
And speaking of ex-friends, my ex-friend, Dr. Hart, recently transferred his All-American son from Plum to Amani Christian Academy.
What's wrong with that?
I've been trying to recruit R.J. Hart since he was 2 days old. And my ex-friend, Dr. Hart, I feel like stabbed me in the back when he enrolled his son into Amani Christian Academy. So as long as I'm on the City League Hall of Fame committee, the 1991 Peary High School basketball state championship team of Will Macon, Hightower, Eddie Benton, and Dr. Hart will never get in the Hall of Fame. The slightly overrated Peary 1990 City League state championship football team that featured MVP, City League MVP Dr. Hart will never get in the Hall of Fame. As long as I'm on the Hall of Fame committee, Alder Dice, former Chicago Bears star and Super Bowl champion, Big Cat Williams will never get in the Hall of Fame. As long as I'm on the Hall of Fame committee, former Alder Dice, Georgia Tech, and Denver Broncos starting left tackle Russell Friedman will never get in the Hall of Fame. And as long as I'm on the City League Hall of Fame committee, Peary's basketball state championship and football state championship will never get in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
I don't know what you're so upset about. The Gateway wasn't so cheap, they'd have made that kid a better offer, and they'd have moved him into the Terry Smith Hotel up there.
Then they all would have been in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. And we just had the young Hart on the show 2 months ago. Your ex-friend. Wow. That's why those words of Smoking Jim, he stands alone, he comes back with a bang, gone for 2 months. It's like he was never going. Hey, changing the subject. I want to talk about LeVar Ball. Can we run some of those clips I told you guys when he started this Big Baller brand that he had a game plan. You know, I didn't understand it. Nobody understood it. But just look at this. You know, selling shoes for, you know, however much. I turn on WWE with my son, and we see this guy running into the ring, kicking with his two sons. Now, you guys didn't believe me, but he's a marketing genius. I feel bad for the middle son. He got 3 of them, but he act like there's only 2. The one who got drafted by the Lakers and his high school son who scored 92 points in one game. The middle son is nowhere to be found. Guys get national TV, he's nowhere near. Hey, listen, Big Baller Brand in just 2 short months has done some things that a lot of business haven't done. WWE, he's middle of the ring, he has his brand right there, a guy's wrestling for it. Can't knock his hustle.
Just 15
he's
minutes
getting it
of
done.
fame.
It's a little more than 15
25
minutes. It's a little more than 15 minutes. His son is going to change Los Angeles, and then when LeBron comes next year, it's going to be Showtime once again.
And then
I
Phil
told you
Jackson will
guys.
go there and ruin it.
Phil Jackson collected his money.
I'm telling you.
He's doing real good.
And maybe my favorite wrestler of all time is D'Angelo Williams. I was impressed.
Oh my goodness! I didn't know he was that athletic.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
we got to get
impressed.
those clips, get them back on. Anyway, Mike, we got a couple guests in the house.
Yeah, we've got former athlete agent Dan Coons and current athlete agent Alex Gaminsky. Guys, introduce yourselves. Just Dan, go ahead and start.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show tonight. My name's Dan Kunz, like Yuns, with a K.
I took a shot.
I'm a Steel City kid. I grew up in the North Hills, graduated from North Hills High School. Went on to St. Vincent, where I graduated, then back to the Berg for Duquesne University School of Law, and I also received my MBA at Duquesne. I currently teach at Duquesne. I'm an attorney. I'm a sports attorney. I have a sports and entertainment practice. Got into the sports arena, I'll say, because I wanted to find a way to stay in the game. When I was in high school and in college, I was an athlete. I realized that I was not going to be a professional athlete. That took some time, took a couple years. But once I realized that, it was important because I was able to get my head on straight and realized that I was going to be a professional in something other than sports. Went to law school, had a desire to stay in the game. I tried to figure out what I could do. I had a passion for helping people. I wanted to help athletes. I found out what I needed to do to become an athletic agent. I went to the NFL Players Association, figured out what we had to do legally to become contract advisor, took an exam. I was an agent for 7 years. I recently retired from that because I realized that was not my place in the sports. That wasn't what I was meant to do. I have a number of clients who are athletes in my legal practice, and I try to figure out how I can be a good mentor and speak bluntly to the athletes, because most of them are going to be a professional in something other than sports.
Right.
So I'll pass it along.
Are you familiar with the head coach of Pine Richland? He's a North Hills graduate.
Yes, Eric was a year ahead of me, and I played
player.
baseball. He was a very good pitcher. You don't hear that.
I just hope my answer doesn't offend Smoking Jim Frazier. Saw that reaction when he heard North Hills High School. I'm from Edgewood, which is a suburb to the east of Pittsburgh. I went to Woodland Hills. I was in the Woodland Hills School District for a long period of time. I ended up graduating from Central Catholic.
Okay.
Are we good? Okay. So, obviously, going to both of those high schools and growing up in that area, there were a lot of athletes that are coming out of both of those schools, and who I ended up befriending just naturally. And later on down the road, fast forward maybe 8-10 years, I go through undergrad, I go through law school, both at the University of Pittsburgh. I'm practicing attorney in my 4th year now, and I have been with the Canadian Football League Players Association for the past 2 years, and I've been a certified contract advisor with the NFL Players Association since October of this past year. I like to represent kids in the Pittsburgh area. We're talking Pitt, Penn State, WVU, driving distance from downtown Pittsburgh, and looking forward to making a splash in the industry one day. So thank you for having me on the show.
Is the Woodland Hills principal still choking the students?
I could have been an agent while you were at Woodland Hills. Your players get paid pretty well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely they do.
All right. Hey, Claudio, who else do we have in the house, man?
Well, somebody who I don't want to make too long of an introduction because it would take all day. He's done so much. Number 56 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, linebacker. I liked him as a player, like him even more as a man, entrepreneur, charitable, very charitable guy, and we'll talk about his foundation. But I've been fortunate enough to know Robin for several years now, I think 14, 15 years. And he doesn't know this, but I keep an eye on him. I watch him, how he acts with people and the things that he's involved with work-wise, and again, his charitable activity. And he's always been an inspiration to me with all the things that he's done. And I consider him a friend, and it's a blessing to have you on the show, Robin.
Thank you, Claudio. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, yes.
I'm Robin Cole. I'm straight out of Compton.
That's right.
A little trivia about that, too. I mean, who else that was given a whole lot to the National Football League, but he's passed now. He's our former commissioner, graduated from Compton High School in 1944.
Pete Rozelle.
Wow.
Suge Knight's from there too, eh?
Right? Dr. Dre.
Wait.
Hey, Robin, if we could have you move the mic up.
Move the mic up? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now.
All right, you got me. So, coming out of Compton, it was, golly, look at that. I mean, look, I'm here. I'm on television. I mean, those were days we were, didn't get the opportunity to do that. But because of sports, like these gentlemen here are working with athletes and have been working over the years with athletes. Because of sports, that kind of got me from Compton to New Mexico, or via New Mexico to Pittsburgh. Wow. Had an opportunity to come here back in 1977, play football for Chuck Noll, and really when you get to know this city, you come here and you work for the Steelers and you work for Chuck Noll, but you really work for the people of Pittsburgh, and you become a part of the family of Pittsburgh. And I'm just fortunate to be one of those guys that had the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
And every event we have, they all go to Robin. And is one of the most popular Steelers, but also, we'll get to it in a little bit, also the one who has a ton of impact with his foundation that we'll get to in a little bit as well. So.
Talk a little, you have an event coming up, and what is the foundation?
Well, we have an event coming up now. It's going to be in September. We had another event we thought was going to be coming up next week, but that event, because of the numbers, we decided to move that back. Mm-hmm. We're working on now something different. We're working on a men family event. Okay. And I say men family simply because we need to get men out to bring about the awareness of prostate cancer. Oh, yeah. I'm a cancer survivor. I have 7 brothers that also cancer. Wow. They didn't all survive. 2 passed away. My father passed away at the age of 49 because of prostate cancer. My father was the youngest child of 19 children. Wow. My father, my grandfather was wasn't the oldest, but his younger brother was Nat King Cole's dad.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, we've learned something about prostate cancer over the years. Wow. Nat, if you go to Wikipedia right now, you'll see that Nat had passed away because of cancer, but they say lung cancer because he was a smoker. Okay. Well, my father also, it had metastasized the prostate cancer. By the time he was 44, it was in his lungs. It did not start in his lungs. It started in his prostate. Well, Nat's dad also, which is my grandfather's brother, also passed away because of some form of cancer. We know today what cancer it was, simply because all of us, ended up with cancer. Wow. Now, something else, because there's some new testing out with genetics. Mm-hmm. And what we're finding out is that for all 7 or all 8 males in my family to have prostate cancer, something else had to go on. And we have proof now that women are carriers of prostate cancer. Okay, so my mom and dad were both carriers of prostate cancer. That's why all 8 of us, 8 for 8, ended up with prostate cancer. And this is one of the things that we learned through genetic testing about prostate cancer right now. And genetic testing, we know that you can be tested. There's really 5 genes out there that are cancerous. And if you have one of those 5, we know that your family or someone in your family had to be tested sooner than later. Okay. Now we've got a lot of pushback over the last couple of years that we wanted to move the age of getting for insurance to pay for prostate cancer testing. Okay. We're trying to get those numbers moved back to 40. And with genetic testing, right now, insurance companies will not pay for genetic testing, but with genetic testing, you can get checked at the age of 20, and you know you have that cancer gene in you. Therefore, doctors can begin to watch you at an early stage. And this is where we are. We don't have any money behind this. Prostate cancer has really no money behind it. Okay. Breast cancer does, colon cancer does, and because we've taken those 2 and said, let's study that.
Right.
Where there's still 30,000 men that die every year because of prostate cancer. We have a lot of work to do. We need to wake up men about this. A lot of them need to get checked, and this is what we do. We bring about awareness. We have educational components that we do, and we also do screenings. We do health fairs, so we're out there trying to make something happen. But the key to this whole thing is resources, okay? And not only resources, we need a person to kind of lead this for real. We go back with breast cancer. Betty Ford kind of got it started, brought it to our awareness back when she was diagnosed with diagnosed with breast cancer. But then a lady by the name of Susan Komen, which was somebody that nobody knew, but she stood up and she fought and got women behind her to fight with her. And then she got the whole, everybody fights now. Now the banks and some of these people that are now that put signs up, they were kind of behind, late with it, but they're supportive of it right now. We need to get to that point, and we don't need to recreate the wheel. All we need to do is take advantage of what's been already out there, what's been created already, and just follow the lead. But we need a spokesperson to do that. And when I say spokesperson, we need somebody out there doing that on a national basis. Okay, it's a lot of little groups out there, but we need somebody doing that on a national basis. I'm willing to take that thing on, but it takes resources to be able to do that. So I threw it out there.
Okay.
That's what I mean by impact.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely what you're doing for the community. Definitely appreciated. Like you said, about 2,000 men in this area, right, are affected by this. At least.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can go right down. Washington, D.C.'s number, as far as men are concerned, Washington, D.C. is like number 1 with the most men passed away a year ago. And then you go to Georgia, and you just kind of work your way around. But this is not, and the myth of this, because if 30,000 men were dying every year and they were all African Americans, then we'd probably be extinct by now. Okay? There's different types of cancer that goes on, and it affects all of us. Caucasian, white males, black males, Hispanic, it doesn't make any difference. Everybody's affected by this. Okay. And that little piece that every once in a while you hear, well, it seems like in the black neighborhood, men, they end up dying, more of them dying. Well, there is reason behind that. It's because most of them wait until it's too late. Okay. They don't have, a lot of these, in a lot of communities, they don't have insurance like other places may have insurance. Okay. Therefore, they wait until it's too late. They'll get the baby's teeth repaired, put braces on some before a man go to the hospital. And a lot of them are going to the hospital, they're hurting. And by the time they get there and find out what's going on, they're in stage 3 and stage 4.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Definitely. All right, again, the number to call, 412-231-2288. We got a history lesson. Man, we had some legendary names come up. I kind of want to get back to, with the contracts as far as being a sports agent. We have a lot of young people, the ones that Jim didn't run away, that watch the show. What is it that you said you went to Woodland Hills, and I know for a while Woodland Hills had more players in the NFL than just about any other school, in the country. What is your sales pitch? How do you get in there and talk to them, some of the athletes when you're trying to
talk to the
someone?
players, right? So there are rules. There's ethics rules. The NFL Players Association has rules. The NCAA has rules, depending on what division you're in, Division 1, 2, or 3. They have rules, and then within each state they have their rules, and then within each school within each state they have their own rules. all the rules are based off of communications with the athlete, what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, how you can say it, if you're allowed to have anybody indirectly speak with them on your behalf. I mean, there's a lot of different avenues that the agent can take to get to a player that he's interested in representing long term. The sales pitch is essentially the same that any other pitch would be. The only thing that I believe may diminish from my ability to represent them is that I'm young, I'm brand new. But I think that works in my favor in a lot of ways that kids these days, and when I say kids, I mean 18 through 22-year-olds, college students, student athletes. They can relate to me because I'm similar in age. I probably listen to the same music that they listen to. I'm involved in the pop culture, kind of around the same vicinity of what they're following, and I can sell my hunger to them. I'm gonna be the best at what I do, hopefully, and I'd like to have them on board, and if not, I'm still going to be able to, because of my drive, achieve what I would like to achieve in the industry.
Cool. And let's jump to the phone lines. Caller, say your name, where you're calling from.
How you doing? I'm Dave. I'm calling from Pittsburgh.
All right, Dave, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I want to talk about the NFL, the concussion protocol. I'm going to make some comments. I'll listen to your responses.
Okay.
From what I understand, in the NFL, you can get whacked in the first or second quarter, go into the locker room. The team physician, they could look into your eyes. Do you feel nauseated? No. You can walk straight line, fine. Now, from what I understand, concussion, sometimes it takes 2 to 3 days to become symptomatic. And what I wanted to say also is, whenever it comes to protecting the NFL players, Robin Cole will attest to this. In the 70s, John Cole was the biggest Steeler at 270. Now you have high school kids weighing 300 or more pounds. So my point is this. These players are becoming bigger, stronger, and faster. So when it comes to protecting the NFL players, I don't know what can be done. So I will hang up and listen to your responses. Thank you.
Okay. We'll start
Speaking of that, we talk about bigger, faster. We've been talking about that for quite a few years. Some of them are faster. Most of the offensive linemen are not as fast as John Cole. Not even as fast as Mike Webster. These guys, if you go back and look at some of the old film, these guys are running down the field 20 yards making blocks. These big old guys today, they fall on the ground. They ain't running nowhere, okay? They walk to the next huddle. I don't even think, some of them, I've gone to camp, and I don't even see them running.
Wow.
I mean, I see them moving around, 2 steps here, 2 steps there, hardly run anymore. Defensive linemen have to do more running because they have to chase after people.
Right.
So that part of it, because the guys are bigger and they're breathing harder when they're out there in the football field, as far as their preparation is concerned, those has some other things that have changed too. Two of the strongest men in the National Football League was John Cole and Mike Webster.
Yes.
In fact, some of the guys that are playing right now in the National Football League cannot lift 1/4 the weight that they were able to press. They were walking around with refrigerators on their back and everything else because their bodies were made to do those kinds of things. They were pure athletes. Okay. Now we got a lot of the guys a little different, and then some of the supplements have changed for guys a little bit too. But they were a whole lot leaner. Chuck Noll wanted lean guys that can run. Guys that once you got over the 300 around there, it became dangerous for a lot of guys. Okay, you didn't push the guys as much. Now, as far as running into guys, quickness. I ran a 4.5 40 when I came here. Most of the guys that play linebacker, they still run that. We had Brian Hinkle, Mike Merriweather. Most of our guys ran 4.6s and 4.5s. Until about the 5th year, I stopped running that. I started running 4.7s. Okay. But it is something. Guys are bigger and you're running into them, but you're not running into them the way we used to smack into guys. Okay, because guys they had speed behind them and power.
Right.
Now guys are so big, you can make a miss. Okay, but when it comes to head injuries, with what we're learning today, okay, there are several games that I should have been on the sideline after concussion. Okay, I was punch drunk. I would still try to fake it. Like a boxer would be, he's got a hit in the head, he started to cover his head, didn't want to get hit again. That's kind of the way we played the game. We got hit in the head, we kind of punch drunk. You knew back when I played, you knew that golly, that little for $30, $40, $50,000 you were getting paid. if somebody else get an opportunity to get on the field, I mean, you can have your job. I mean, there's nothing to lose. You know, we get anybody off the street. Now, I mean, we used to say that when we go on strike. Man, we can find anybody off the street to play that position if we teach them long enough. Well, today, when millions of dollars are being involved, players are a little smarter. Players, you know, most players, when they get a concussion, they will go to the sideline, and players have to be their own doctors. Okay, knowing what I knew today, and if I was getting $1 million a year, golly, if I had a slight concussion, I'll get to the sideline. I know what it is, and I would say, hey, I have something going on in my head. I'm a little dizzy. And then the doctor can make a decision pure on that. He doesn't have to give me the finger test, how many fingers I got to go up, you know, 2 or 3, what day it is, and all those types of things. I mean, that's just a bunch of stuff. Me as a player, if I'm making $1 million a year, see, because it's different now. If I'm making $1 million a year, well, I have some support now. I have a couple of dollars in the bank. Now I can afford to tell you the truth. Okay, I couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford to tell you the truth back in the day. Okay, that's why we had guys that went on that field and continued to play. The fingers broke off, bleeding over from over here, you know, the hip. All kinds of things were going on.
Players getting their finger cut off.
Back up, get on the field. Okay, that's the way we played. That's the way we did things. We're a little tougher, yeah, but I mean that's the way it was. But with today, I can see where players can say, I'm hurt. Something's going on there, and if they've had one of them, they know that it can last the whole game. And there's been several games that I played that I had no idea how I played in that game. And you know, going into the next day and waiting until we film day so I could see the film and see how I played, because I was punch drunk and didn't remember much of the game.
All right, Smoke, you want to add something to that about the concussion, Smoke and Jim?
No, it's basically what I've been saying for the last 15 years, that professional athletes are a piece of meat and they're there for my entertainment, so that's all I care about.
Smoke and Jim.
Yeah. And we understand it too that way. We're entertaining.
Yeah, actually, my first year with the NFL, I was representing a safety out of Gannon University who was getting a lot of local attention.
CFL?
No, he was entering the NFL draft and potentially in the CFL if the NFL didn't work out. But he never ended up getting that far due to significant head injuries. Just the way he played, that hard hitting, he had kind of a Bob Sanders approach to the game, just would hit you, fly around, and he ended up retiring from football at 22 years old because of the head traumas.
And I think what you also have to look at is not, like Alex was giving the example of a player who didn't go further than college. I mean, the reality is very, very few ever make it to be a professional athlete. So we're dealing with individuals who are, maybe they played high school football, college football, and they've suffered trauma. We say concussion, but I think it's more of the trauma to the brain and the repeated trauma. And in my practice representing former athletes, you know, I've seen something very similar with many athletes who have had significant histories of head trauma. And a lot of it is substance abuse and mental health issues that look like depression and anxiety. And I've seen this over and over, which then leads to bad behavior. And many times, the conversation about football comes up when I'm interviewing my client, asking, did you play any sports? You played football. Ever have a concussion? And many times it was, well, you know, I was never diagnosed, but there was a few times I was punch drunk. They've used words like this. So it's something that it doesn't just affect the professional athletes. I think we're seeing it in the high schools. I know there was a study that was recently done, but I think the subject of that study were individuals who played high school football in 1957 or 1959 in Wisconsin. That was just on the news today. So.
I definitely like what the NFL is doing with the concussions. Like you said, Robin, back in your day, guys were playing, you know, I saw Terry Bradshaw highlights of Terry Bradshaw getting jumped and he's having convulsions or something down. You know, that wouldn't even be allowed nowadays. But just the toughness of you guys back then, it was just amazing. So I don't think we'll ever see those days again. And I'm kind of glad because the suffering that so many of these older players have gone through is it's heartbreaking. You know,
When I watch the Cincinnati Bengals, when I'm watching on their defense, I mean, is it really gone? I mean, they're pretty brutal.
they're pretty
at
dirty.
times. Yeah,
But you know,
you said it don't happen today. It
not
still
like
happens.
that. When somebody gets dropped on his head like Bradshaw did, was that Cleveland? Who was it? Was it Cleveland?
Turkey
Yeah,
Jones.
Oh
Jones.
my gosh! Yeah, when that starts happening, yeah. But you know, the dirty hits here and there. You know, you can only think one team that's really, you know, so dirty like that in the NFL now. Cincinnati, you know, you got the Pac-Man Jones and the other, you know, goofy guy.
I
Perfect.
remember James Harrison against the Cleveland Browns twice.
That was legal.
Against his college roommate.
That was
Against his college roommate.
that was legal.
The fan that went on the field.
Hey, get a number to call is 412. Oh man, the number to call is 412-231-2288. One thing I did want to get to, Le'Veon Bell. Can we run some of his highlights? You know, there's a contract situation right now. I don't know if you guys can talk about it or what you would, you know, recommend. I don't know. Right now, I guess he signed a $12 million tender.
Did he sign it already? I don't think he signed it yet. did he?
Yeah, I thought he signed it.
I don't think he
well,
signed
okay.
it.
Well, that's what they're looking at, you know, and then I guess make him the franchise player. I don't know if you guys can talk about that. If you were representing him, what would you? I don't know. It seems like a tough situation. If,
I mean,
if you were
this
his agent.
guy's offered guaranteed $12 million and he's not signing it. Make me think he's smoking some bad weed.
I say pay
I
the
knew that
man.
was coming.
You knew it was coming.
I say pay the man. He's year after year. I mean, at least for the past 2 seasons, I don't remember a running back that has produced, you know, more than Le'Veon Bell. I mean, didn't he not this past season have both 1,000 yards catching and 1,000 yards receiving? I'm sorry, rushing.
Russian, yeah.
And it's pretty impressive to do something like that. The last person to do that was Marshall Falk, and we saw he's in the Hall of Fame now. But if you're the best player at your position, you should be paid like the best player at your position. And I'm all for the player in this situation, but I can see from the Steelers' perspective why they would want to keep it at a lower number than what Le'Veon wants. The market's just not there right now for running backs.
But yeah, the position's been so devalued now. I mean, everybody's doing this, you know, combination running back. There's very few.
Well,
you know,
he's getting what, 12 and a half at the franchise
Right.
tag,
Right.
and the next highest paid player is LaShawn McCoy at around 8.7 million. You know, the market's just not there right now, and if he wants to create that market for running backs, I think that he's allowed to, based on what he's done already for the game and for the Steelers.
You think that would be, if you're negotiating, you think that would be you know, his position, that'd be a pretty tough sell, right? I mean, with the position and his injuries and some of the suspensions, seems like that would be an agent's, you know, nightmare scenario almost.
I remember Tim Worley one time threatened to sit out and sell insurance. Maybe Le'Veon could do that.
Well, the team is always going to knock what you're doing. I mean, you
Right.
could have 2,000 yards, but yeah, but it took you 300 carries, and they're going to put you down so they can get their way. They do that in baseball all the time.
You know something, when we talk about football and we talk about, you know, we talk about the highlights and watch highlights and we watch players and the things that they do. There's one thing sometimes we kind of forget. And character has a lot to do with making deals.
Right.
Okay. And I mean, you have to remember that it's not only, even though the parents normally spend the money to go to these games, but you have a lot of young people watching these games.
Yes, sir.
Character is important. And sometimes when you're trying to make a deal and you're trying to be the highest paid somebody or whoever you may be, character comes into play then, okay? Where do you go? And tell me where you go, because I've tried it. When you leave the National Football League and make $1 million a year, $1 million. Okay, you're not gonna go out there. I don't care who you work for. You're not gonna go out there and work for the Steel Corporation or anybody. They're not hiring you,
Right.
okay, and pay you $1 million a year because what you did in the National Football League. It ain't happening. Okay, you start your own business. Take you about 25 years. If you get to that point to where you've developed it, to where you can give yourself that type of salary, maybe. You know, it looks good to think about. Le'Veon, he can catch the ball out of the backfield too.
Right.
So he's both a part of that passing game and running game. You know, he's one of the best guys there, but you have to take a look at it. You go back to the last couple of years now, you've had challenges. I missed 4 games here. That doesn't go unseen, or nobody's paying any attention to that.
Yes, sir.
If I'm owning the team, I'm paying attention to it, because if you've got, with that, until they change the law in Pennsylvania to where they legalize marijuana, you have to still, you got 2 chances.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
They can just call you up or come by your house anytime, check you one more time. And with the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you that next time and you suspend it again, I mean, that's a loss for them.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, there's a lot of sit down at the table and really getting to know my player when we're talking about those types of dollars. Okay. We talk about the market. Woo, you're talking about missing the market. Golly, the market's great. It's better than the football league. The market wasn't there when I was playing. Okay, all right, but it's there now. Okay, it's there now, and I think that it's great money. But character has to play a part, especially with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they're an organization that they're an elite organization when we come to organizations a lot, and they've dealt with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities along the way. But when it comes to that type of thing, they have to, this decision making, it tightens it up a little bit for them. Right. Do we know for sure? Okay. Are we invested in this in 1 year, and then the next year, are we running into the same problem? Or do we just say, we take a blind eye to the whole situation and say, well,
I don't know. What about the running back position just in general? I mean, it's just, like you said, $8 million, LaShawn McCoy, the money's not there. Well, it's still good money.
You think that
But
Sean
it's not-
McCoy's
it's not
worth more
there.
than $8 million?
Hey, he's a top running back in this market, yes. But the running back position, it's changed. I mean, what do you as a former player, what do you think about that? I mean,
he has to be
back
able to
in
catch
the-
the ball.
You know, in the 80s, it was all about the running
Has to be
back.
able to catch the ball. Well, I mean, golly, we changed the rules. We made the rules that way. Okay, if you just like we were talking about aggressive football, if we start playing aggressive football again, all of a sudden you find out guys start dropping balls.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
They don't drop. No, you don't drop them now. I mean, I watch football out there today, and I watch wide receivers slapping cornerbacks,
Right,
kicking them in the rear and calling them all kind of names. So, now, when I played, okay, we were the aggressor. Now, you can't touch me, so now I'm the big mouth. I mean, yeah. I mean, all I hear is noise out there. I said, what kind of program is this? Because they're getting away with everything right now. Okay, loosen it up. Let's get back. We want to stop. We can stop the running. We've stopped passing games.
Right.
Okay, we played people and they come in, they throwing the ball all over the place. We've stopped passing games.
Right.
Okay, but when you start tying our hands behind our backs,
Then it's almost impossible.
it's impossible.
Yeah.
And right now, that's what kind of defense we're playing. You got guys that line up on a cornerback. There's no way in the world Mel Blanc can line up on a guy that it can fly, and I can't put my hands on the guy.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I have to back up and just let him run and then chase him.
Good point.
What can you say?
But have you had, Dan, have you had a situation like that before where it was almost like a can't-win situation? I mean, I don't see this really playing out well for Le'Veon Bell. He might get it this year. They might come back and do it again next year. And then, maybe you'll have to go elsewhere.
Right.
What would you?
I agree, Mr. Cole. I agree. Character is so important. I mean, we're in an age of the games having fewer and fewer young athletes playing it.
Right.
And it's important that, and some of that goes towards the image of the game. And the concussion issue is there, but it's also the character of the players. And these young men are looking to Le'Veon Bell as a role model. And a franchise cannot sit by when the behavior is not up to par, which is it's a derogatory to not only the Steelers but to the whole professional football. So that has to be taken into account. And the best way to predict the future behavior is to look at the past behavior. So it's definitely going to be on the minds of the Steelers as to whether and to what they're going to do with him.
Do you think the Steelers are holding it against him because it's Rap CD bombed?
What the one where he said he didn't got to pay him $14 million a year, right?
Like they said, character, I mean, it goes beyond the fact that that he's a jerk and he makes rap videos and tweets or whatever, like Robin said, they're going to test him again. And I will bet everything I own right now that Le'Veon Bell is going to miss a full season before he ever plays an entire season.
I don't know. We'll see. Hey, again, number to call, 412-231-2288. I want to switch subjects. Now, I don't know. You said you've represented a number of different players, NFL, NBA, hockey. The richest contract in history, Steph Curry, as we watch some of his highlights.
He deserves it.
5 years,
Deserves it.
$201 million. As an agent, how do the percentages break up? You know, maybe not on that contract, but what's the percentage typically?
Sure. Currently, for the NFL Players Association, the SRA, which is the Standard Representation Agreement that the NFL uses to bind athletes to players, it caps the agent's commission at 1.5%. However, it leaves you the option to go up to 3%.
Okay.
And the player and the agent can agree to more than 1.5%. They can agree to up to 3%. And even the 3%, it's not a lot. You know, we may be talking about a lot of money that's guaranteed on these contracts, but as the agent, after the player signs with you, you have to front a lot of money for training, for pro day, and sometimes they have girlfriends, sometimes they have wives, sometimes they have children that have to travel with them to Los Angeles, to Tampa Bay, to Chicago for
Now, do
training.
they get that money back outside of the percentage, or is that included in the percentage?
Well, it depends. You can agree to something different with the player. The NFL also uses an agreement to advance funds sheet where you and the player can agree ahead of time that this is just a loan. But some of the agents these days have to create an edge for their services by reducing that to zero. They don't take anything on the back end. And they're, what we do is we invest in players. We choose our players very carefully and methodically, and we analyze their play, and we get advice from scouts and coaches and ESPN rankings, things like that, and that's how we decide who we target. And you know, it's fun, I think.
That monetary advance gets a lot of guys caught
What was
up.
that movie, Jerry Maguire? It's not
Jerry
the Jerry
Maguire.
Maguire that people have ingrained in their head, right?
Yeah, if I had a dime for every time someone compared me to Jerry Maguire,
Right.
Right.
Hey, let's jump to the phone lines. Caller, say your name, where you're calling from.
Hey, gentlemen, how you doing? It's Kelly Russell.
What's up,
Kelly,
man?
Kelly.
Hey, first and foremost, Sunken, it is good to see you.
Hey, thank you,
However-
sir.
You're welcome. However, only you can, as usual, live a moment where, hey, it's good to see Smoking Jim again, and then you just start shaking your head after he starts talking. But hey, still good to see you regardless.
Oh, goodness.
He's back, Kelly.
Oh, boy, back and better than ever, folks.
Except
Hey, I
if
had
you're
a
Dr.
question
Hart.
for the agents. Y'all, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said except if you're Dr. Hart.
Right. Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let those two work that out.
Yeah.
I ain't in it.
Right?
I did have a question for the agents, and y'all somewhat started to hit on it a little bit as I was listening in here. But what type of plans do you guys set up for these guys, especially some of these athletes, when they get that first or second contract, depending on which one? Well, you know, the second one's the bigger money, to make sure they don't end up like on that ESPN's 30 for 30 broke, or you know that the hanger-ons don't drain their money, or add investments. Like, what type of plans do you guys hope to set them up where they can kind of avoid that bad stuff and kind of do right with their money and really set it up where it's something, a legacy for their children on down to potential great-grandchildren?
Hey, thank you for calling in. That's just a wonderful question because it's a very real issue, and the best advice I can give a player who is approaching that second contract, but even the first contract is to have a relationship with a reputable financial advisor, somebody who's going to be looking at the best interests of the player. Depending on the situation, we see players now wanting to legacy is a big thing for them. They're setting up nonprofits. We've got to be careful with that because a lot of times those nonprofits are for family and friends to work at. So it's really looking at the player, staying involved, making sure that as an agent you're not getting into something which you're not qualified or expert. When you're dealing with taxes, you send to a tax professional. When you're dealing with the financial part of it, you make sure that you do a background check and you find a very, very good financial advisor who's going to take good care of your client.
I can speak directly to that, and thank you for the call. It's a really interesting question, especially when you're dealing with the Canadian Football League and how money transfers over when you bring it across the border, which I had to advise a couple guys on that this past year. But as an agent, we wear many hats. I mean, we don't just sign contracts and negotiate contracts. I believe that the relationship between the agent and the player is very sacred. It's almost like the attorney-client relationship in the sense that every move that you make must be on the player's behalf and in their best interest at all times. So as the agent, it's important to associate yourself and keep in your professional circle a network of people that make the players' lives much easier, much more profitable, and much safer long term. So under the agent umbrella, I have a group of financial advisors that I refer the player to, and I don't ever let the player know that this is somebody you have to sign with and let them manage your money. I always leave that up to the player, but I give them the option of selecting which financial advisor and with what brokerage they're interested in handling their wealth going forward. And sometimes the players want to start a clothing line, they want to start a music label, they want to start a restaurant business. A lot of them want to get into real estate when it's all said and done for them. And their careers are only, the average NFL player plays 4 or 5 years in the NFL. Right. So, the advice is get the money as soon as possible to prepare yourself for a life without a substantial paycheck that the NFL offers. So I get to know the player on a very personal level, very early in the recruiting process, just to make sure that he likes my team and I like his team. So.
Okay. Real quick, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen players make? They don't have to necessarily be yours, but what are some of the worst mistakes that you've seen recently or in the past?
Well, recently with social media, big mistakes been taking place.
Okay.
I mean, that's an area where it's ripe to get yourself into trouble.
Right.
And not just with your team and with the ownership, but also with the laws. Here, at least here in Pennsylvania, you go on Facebook, you're doing a YouTube video, and you're getting somebody else's voice that hasn't consented to being on.
Antonio
Well,
Brown.
you've committed a crime that could be a felony.
Right.
It's a wiretapping act. So, you got to really be careful. I think social media that's really ripe for getting into trouble. And as an agent, you gotta know what different systems they're on, and you gotta monitor it.
Okay.
I think that mistake may be the wrong word. Eagerness. A lot of the guys that I represent are very eager to hear back from teams when I inquire about their potential signing with that team or work out or a tryout or their draft stock. So I think that when the player gets into that anxious mode, and part of my job is to keep them as calm as possible throughout the process, and I think that that's what I do very well. I explain to them sort of situations that they're going to be confronted with and that they're going to be exposed to that may be outside of their experience at that age, that they haven't necessarily dealt with business contracts before. They haven't necessarily dealt with charity appearances before and autograph signings and travel and training. And, so I think that one of the mistakes that I've seen players make is they're getting a little too antsy, and they ask you to do too much for them and to go kind of above and beyond what my role in an ideal capacity would be for them. Tell me what this team said. Tell me what this team said. And you know, usually I CC them on all my emails and phone calls anyways. So I think that's one mistake that I've seen my players make. Trust the process is what I tell them. Like, your ability got you here to this point. It's giving you an opportunity to do something that not a lot of people have done before. So trust in your skills, trust in your ability, trust my judgment in recruiting you in the first place, and let the process play itself out.
Okay.
Just to follow up with the question, there's a boss. There's opportunities out there now with the National Football League Players Association that's available for players. Okay, years ago it wasn't. Now we have professionals that are out there that have gone through all types of challenges, that know the financial game, that know the law game, that understand that we've tapped into. Right. And there's a lot of young new players, they don't understand this yet. When they first come in the league, they have no idea that the information is out there. There's information out there. If they wanted to start a business, that we have people out there, if 5, we have 40 that have gone through businesses that can begin to teach them and help them through some of these things and making the decision making. Okay. I always said when I first came to Pittsburgh, I never had the money to be able to do this, but I said, wow. I was working with a guy that was an agent. And he started tapping into areas that I thought he knew about that he didn't know about. Okay. Wow. Okay. Right. And some of them will do that. They'll start tapping into areas that they really don't know anything about. And that's how they should. What they should do is come and start beginning to recommend. So they need to do some homework too. Right. And recommending certain people that would do certain things. And I always said, why don't we go to the Pittsburgh Steelers and ask them who they use? Right. I don't hear about too many losers. Right. Okay. All right. And with the money that some of these guys are getting today, those are the people that, who is your attorney for this? And who is your financial advisor for this? Right. I mean, those are the people. Can I talk to that person? Are they in business or they just work for you? Okay. If they're in business, why would I talk to the people that you work with? Right. Because there are today opportunities out there for players to get that information and to work closely with people that kind of know about it and understand it a whole lot better than we do, and sometimes a whole lot better than your field may be one thing, and you got these. It's good to have those relationships like you're talking about. That's true. Having those relationships with those people to be able to pull it all together. Okay, great answer. Hey, Kelly, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, you have another question?
No, I know it's getting late in the hour. I just wanted to thank the gentlemen for their answers. It's like, you watch the show, and there's been many shows, but I'll just pick Ballers because it's the most recent show. Right. And you think about the relationship with the one guy, Vernon, and his friend Reggie, how it was in the first season, and it seemed like he was just hanging on, and just certain things, like from the 30 for 30 broke. So it's nice to hear these guys are trying to make sure that they steer their clients for reputable individuals who can help the players make that money just be generational wealth instead of a one-time shot deal. So thank you, gentlemen.
All right, Kelly, have a good night.
Thanks for the call.
All right, Kelly.
All right, real quick. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it, and we said we were. The Pacquiao fight. Can we run some of those highlights? I'll throw it over to the boxing guys first. Jim, you always come from left field. Real quick, what were your thoughts on this robbery?
We all been involved in street fights, alley fights, and you mean the Pacquiao fight?
Fight.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Horn won that all the way.
Hart.
Yeah, no, I was talking about the McGregor fight, but yeah, Horn won this fight. He was able to rehydrate. He was 20 pounds bigger than Pac. He put the pressure on him.
In the 9th round.
But he probably won the first 7 rounds. No. Only a 12-round fight.
Pacquiao landed over 100 more punches.
Yeah, blood coming from both sides of his head.
Because of headbutts, not no punches.
Horn
it was a headbutt.
Horn did a nice job. He was aggressive. He put on a good show. But Pacquiao won the fight.
Yeah, I mean that was a robbery.
Although one good thing about it is we talked about it on our boxing show. We talked about it on this show. Pay-per-views go anywhere from 200,000 for Mayweather, 600,000, whatever. This show was watched by 4.4 million. and that's good for boxing. Although the decision really hurt boxing.
Is that because Stephen A. Smith was on?
He dropped a lot of knowledge.
You know,
Manny Pacquiao is a shot fighter. He's been a shot fighter since Marquez knocked him out.
Yeah, cold.
It's a tribute to how good he really was before that, to see what he still does now. And you know he's a shot fighter because Mayweather would not have fought him if he wasn't. But it's a tribute, like I said, to how good Mayweather or Pacquiao actually was before Marquez knocked him out. And when Marquez knocked him out, that was a bad knockout, and he has not been the same since.
But the one thing about this, they said Teddy Atlas had a 10-8 round. I think it was the 9th round.
Right.
For Pacquiao, and 2 of the judges had 10-9 Horn. I mean, that's terrible.
It was good to see it on ESPN and no pay-per-view like you said.
Oh, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Same Teddy Atlas that claims he pulled a gun on Tyson, right?
And went after Donnie Lalonde with a gun. He went to the wrong house. So he's not around too tight.
Real quick, we only have 2 minutes. I know you wanted to say something about Marc-Andre Fleury. Real quick, Mike.
Yeah, well, sentimentally, it's a shame to lose Fleury and Kunitz and Bonino and Daly, but they're good hockey moves for the Penguins. Losing Fleury frees up a ton of cap space, like $6 million worth. The other Daly and Bonino are getting too much money for too many years. Right. That's why they let Kunitz go for only $2 million for 1 year. I don't know. The Penguins must know something about Kunitz that Tampa Bay doesn't know. But if you watch what the Penguins are doing now and what they did at the trade deadline, and turn around and look at what the Pirates are going to do at the trade deadline and what they're going to do in free agency, you can see the difference between a great organization and a garbage dump.
Mediocre baseball. They're only 7 games out.
Right,
They're still in it.
There you go.
Still in
We
it.
only have 1 minute left. I want to thank our guests
Thank you, guys.
for coming
Thank you,
on.
thank you.
This was a great hour. We have to have all you guys back on again. For Smoking Jim, Mike, Claudio, Luther, we'll check you out next time. Peace.
Do either of you guys handle talk show hosts?
We got one.
Do we rep them? We do now.
We might have to get it.
Talk
Hey,
after the show.
all right, we'll check her out next time. scsportsworld.com. Thanks for tuning in.